Let me read to you a passage from the 20th chapter of St John's Gospel, verses 1 to 2 and verses 11 to 18. It's the Gospel for the Memorial Day of St Mary Magdalene on July the 22nd. I shall only read part of the passage because it is a little long. St John writes, "Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. She stood outside the tomb weeping. Then she turned round and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. 'Woman,' he said, 'why are you weeping? Who is it you are looking for?' Thinking he was the gardener, she said, 'Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him.' Jesus said to her, 'Mary.' She turned towards him and cried out in Hebrew, 'Rabboni,' which means teacher. Jesus said, 'Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am returning to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God.' Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, 'I have seen the Lord.' And she told them that he had said these things to her." That's from John chapter 20, verses 1 to 2 and verses 11 to 18, for the Memorial Day of St Mary Magdalene, July the 22nd. What does it suggest to us? Well, consider the great religions of the world apart from Christianity. There is Buddhism with its search for nirvana, which is happiness and freedom from the fate of rebirth by the attainment of enlightenment and utter detachment. Formally speaking, there is no personal God in Buddhism, no loving creator. Nirvana is the great and transcendent goal of human endeavor. Nirvana transcends, being a state that is ever ahead, ever above, ever beyond. Its note is transcendence. Then there is Islam, with its goal of total submission to Allah, who transcends all. Allah is the only God, creator of the universe and the judge of humankind. He is unique and inherently one, all-merciful and omnipotent. He is the God of inaccessible mystery. Among the 99 names of God, the most famous and the most frequent of these names are the merciful and the compassionate. Now, what strikes the observer in this lofty Islamic account is the unutterable transcendence of God. Allah is merciful and compassionate, yes, but the accent is on his transcendence. According to the scholar Francis Edwards Peters, the Quran insists, and Muslims believe, and historians affirm, that Muhammad and his followers worship the same God as the Jews. The Quran's Allah is the same creator God who covenanted with Abraham. Significantly though, Peters states that the Quran portrays Allah as both more powerful and more remote than Yahweh, and as a universal deity, unlike Yahweh, who is closely involved with the Israelites. So, it would seem that Allah is not the same as Yahweh really. As already suggested, a special characteristic of the Allah of Islam is his transcendence. More than anything, he is beyond. Now, of course, God the Creator does indeed transcend his creation. How could it be otherwise? If there is to be a creator of the world who creates from nothing and who sustains in existence every element of all there is, then he must transcend in every respect his creation. However, there is another essential feature to the divine nature, and that is his immanence. God is unimaginably immanent, so very, very near. Well then, how can this be imagined and drawn into the practice of religion? not only his transcendence but his immanence. Well, let us place ourselves in the gospel scene that the church selects for the memorial of St Mary Magdalene, the one I read earlier. It is Sunday morning and we are at the tomb of the crucified Jesus, where his body has lain since late Friday afternoon. Mary is at the tomb weeping, for the body has gone. Her whole being is full of love for the Master who is her Lord and her guide. She turns and sees someone nearby, whom she takes to be the gardener. He speaks, asking why she was weeping. "Where is the body?" she asks him. "Mary," he replies, undoubtedly with a joyous smile and eyes full of joy. And light and happiness flood her mind, her heart, her soul, and her being. "Master," she says, and falls before him in a rapture of happiness. He is alive before her in all his concrete, physical, and living reality. There is immediacy, direct contact, and all of this in a very concrete situation. Now, this is Christianity. God makes himself immediate, direct, concrete, very near. A week later, and it is described by St John in the same chapter, the living Jesus will meet the doubting Thomas and will evoke from him a magnificent profession of faith in his divinity. "My Lord and my God," Thomas will bow before this living, risen man, and he will feel his hands and his side that contain the marks of the passion, and he will, from the depths of his spirit, acknowledge him as his Lord and God, Yahweh God, the God who spoke to Abraham, Moses, and the prophets, without, of course, being the Father. He is the Son, but the same transcendent God, who gives to us, who believe in him, the gift of a share in his own divine spirit, thus drawing us into the very life of the transcendent divine Trinity. In Jesus Christ, the transcendent God became flesh and dwelt among us. He became very concrete, very immediate, very near, very accessible, very familiar. He is God with us. In the Christian religion, which God himself established, the transcendent God chooses to emphasize his astonishing immanence. This closeness of God is manifested in the gospel scene of today that I read earlier. Mary Magdalene speaks directly to the great God with utter immediacy, the God who is Jesus Christ. Mary Magdalene is the one who embodies the Christian ideal of a full and enthusiastic love for Jesus Christ, the incarnate God. This is the heart and soul of the Christian religion. St. Paul writes that the Son of God did not cling to his glorious God, his transcendent state, we might almost say, but gave it up and became as men are, and humbler still, even to death on a cross. Of course, he remains the transcendent God always, but he has brought to the fore his divine immanence. He is now so very, very accessible and so concrete. We can indeed live in him by grace, and by grace he lives in us. Let us give thanks to God for deigning to make us his own friends, his own children.